All right, let's. We've been exercising the gut door as well as the heart door. Perhaps it's good to remind of the, how should I say, like four major entry points to the natural state. So 3 fist-sized areas, one in the gut, one in the heart, one inside the head, in the middle of the head. And then the 4th one is at the end of both pillars, so you can access it from there or both simultaneously. So we have 4: 1 gut, 2 heart, 3 head, 4 Mahasiddha bhumis at the end of the pillars. So and the reason why I said 4 major entry points is because these are areas that are the Mahasiddha bhumis. Bhumi means ground. It's not actually correct to say state, but because Buddha mind, Buddha nature is beyond states. Like if you start looking at what state means like being in particular kind of state. Well, you could say that Buddha nature is a state that is beyond the common definition of states. Perhaps you can say that. But so we have these areas in our subtle body that are pure, do not get tarnished and stained or affected by the notion of me, I, meanness, the self. So that's why they are special. But like I also said during this retreat, you know, in Taoist teaching that has been adapted to East Asian Buddhism, in Korea, in Japan. In Japan, it's a big thing, as big as in China, in Taoism. They speak about 3 dantians. Dantien. In Japan, it's tanden, dantien. In Japan, they also speak of hara, H-A-R-A, hara, and they refer to the gut. But I'm just really repeating what I said before, is that well, I think there is at least one Taoist teacher alive who speaks of 4 dantians, like I do. Mantak Chia. I think Mantak Chia speaks about 4 in his books and has some like pictures of the 4 dantians. But usually it's just three. So gut, heart, and head. And I would hope, I don't know the current situation of Taoism that well. Taoism hasn't been exported outside China like Buddhism has from different Eastern countries. So a lot of the information is held in China. But I'm hopeful. I think that there are still Taoist lineages that speak of these 4 areas in their language, 3 areas in their language, 3 dantians, in exactly the same way as I present them as a teacher of Buddhist Tantra, and especially Dzogchen, Ati-yoga. So, entryways to the natural state, rather than ways to, for example, in Japanese Zen Buddhism that I'm familiar with, you start accumulating prana, vital energy, or chi in the belly. You start building stuff. But I'm not that convinced. I'm not at all convinced about that kind of application of using the Dantien or this particular area. So my understanding is very different from that. So why am I saying all this? Actually, I remembered when we started this retreat and we did the first gut session a couple of days ago. I remembered that 10 years ago I wrote a book about these four areas 10 years ago. But fortunately, you won't be able to find that book anymore because, 10 years ago, I think I wrote that book. I think it was like literally the same or the next month after my first Bumi opened. So I think it has some correct. Well, we really wouldn't even need to discuss about that book, and I'm not going to tell the title, and it's not written in my own name, so that's how you won't be able to find it. Fortunately, thank God. But I think there were some correct that I already had 10 years ago, but also, this was just when I had really set my feet on in the path of realization of selflessness, emptiness. So, this aspect is completely absent from that booklet that I wrote back then. But nowadays, of course, my view has quite a bit developed since then, and that's why I'm looking at these 3 and 4th entryways. I see them in a very different way and present them in a different way. And I was mentioning, yes, the reason why I started to talk about this was because I mentioned Vimalamitra, Mahasiddha Vimalamitra, who is the one who gave me a set of teachings related to these 4 entryways 6-7 years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. And I have taught it, when might have been the last time, maybe 2015 or 16. I remember there was was it a 3-year meditation course in Finland around that time, and I think that I gave this practices. So it's been a while. I might have taught it after that, but I don't really remember. But nevertheless, the way how we've been practicing the gut and the heart. I'm disrobing now because it's so hot. I leave the tantric path behind me and become a sutrik now. So the way how we've been practicing these two entryways, gut and heart now, is according to Ati Yoga teaching. So entryways to recognize the basic state and keep recognizing whenever it's needed. So this is according to how Vimalamitra presented these doorways to me. The only difference that I haven't said here is that his instruction included following the breath in these locations. So when you place your attention lightly in the belly, for example, I just told you to place your attention there lightly, just like touching, but not squeezing at all, not even 1% pressure, just touching. And then what happens is that it disappears. And then you do it again if you need it. So I told you to place your attention lightly there if you don't feel that this dimensionality and this 3-dimensionality and that the process of focusing doesn't disappear. Then you just keep your attention there lightly. So yes, he had this additional element of following the breath there, you know. So the gut moves with the breath. Or if you place the attention in the heart, there is also movement of the breath there. And we yet haven't had a session with the head, but the same thing in the head. There is movement, subtle movement of the breath there happening. So this was Vimalamitra's original instruction. But the main point is not to follow the breath, it's just to use it until, what is that word? It's a cliff. Use the breath until you reach the edge of the cliff and fall into a free fall. Free fall here is an analogy for the natural state. And when I said that dimensionality collapses, this is a technical point, which means that if we are focusing on one object, or if we are focusing on three-dimensional space, these type of exercises are tied to three-dimensionality. There is width, depth, and height in space. But in basic space, it's zero-dimensional. No sides and no center. And this exactly is what happens with when basic state is recognized, because our mind, our samsaric mind, thoughts, emotions, reactions, thought associations, it all is like flies, butterflies, bugs flying in three-dimensional room, in three-dimensional space. Do you understand? These are like objects appearing like bugs and butterflies in three-dimensional space. And it is exactly because we perceive it that way what gets us trapped in the net web of samsara, this three-dimensionality. We are caught in this space. And actually this space that we are talking about is the aura. We are limited by the aura. Because in samsara, the condition of the aura, like I was talking about wisdom prana and then samsaric prana. So in samsaric mode, the aura is our prison. Because there are so many self-based files recorded on the nadis and chakras. So, you know, there is a lot of discussion in texts written by Vajrayana masters about dimensionality, being stuck in space and time. And when they say that, stuckness in space, meaning stuck in three-dimensional space. And this is again like I'm pulling the rug under the under shamatha practices, under, you know, I was talking about the heavy blankets and being stuck under heavy blankets. So when you practice one-pointed concentration, doesn't make the blankets throw away, or if we practice three-dimensional concentration by just focusing on the space around us, 360-degree space, this is also shamatha exercise. So then you're stuck with the same problem. It's just a different way of creating that calm space. But you're stuck. But when zero dimensionality, zero dimension, no dimensions. No dimensions. It's like a, well, that that problem of being stuck existing, me existing in space and in time, stops being existent. So there is a like popular phrase, be here now. Might work, might not work, might become okay, now I'm being here now. Here and now. Might become your prison, might make it worse. Do you understand? Yeah. So self-based existence is very much tied to this three-dimensional thinking process, feeling process, perceiving, just this three-dimensional functioning of the mind. That is then tied to time. There is a sense of time passing. But when you pop out of your samsaric mind, your everyday deluded mind, heck, completely different, weightless, no sense of time passing, no contraction, none of it. That's why they say that that the natural state is space-like, because it is space-like, but it's not three-dimensional space. This is where many Hindus they make mistake that it's a large space. I'm not small contracted, I'm big, I'm vast. This is what the doctrine of emptiness strictly says. No. It's like a rusty chains, golden chains. Still trapped, still a prison. But basic state, weightless, selfless, bright, fresh, no sense of time passing. Still we can think, still we can feel, we can taste, we can enjoy. And it feels like there is no distance to things. Things become very intimate, very intimate. And of course also this last couple of retreats we had, I was using the groundedness aspect of basic state, groundedness, settledness. I was using the word bedrock peacefulness. It's that kind of peacefulness that is bedrock. Bedrock means like a when you go down from the ground and you dig up and there is mud and there is like stones and even bigger stones and smaller stones, sand, all that. When you move away all of that, you eventually find this bedrock of the whole planet. So it's like this unshakable foundation of the planet. So that is also a bit dangerous analogy, but if you understand that I'm not talking about something that you stand on, I'm not talking about a state, I'm not talking about a mind state, three-dimensional some kind of state that you go into. No, I'm talking about the opposite, getting out of all states. Both samsaric states, heavenly states, exalted states, trance states, or states of meditation, or states of meditative absorption. These are like this. So there is a word of samadhi in Buddhism and also in Hinduism. Samadhi means samadhi is given different meanings. When people practice shamatha meditation and they focus on one point, they start saying that you enter samadhi when you start experiencing the so-called access concentration, where you remain absorbed or one pointed on the object, that it sustains itself, this process of concentration. But it's completely built and based on three-dimensionality. So that is bound to break. When you stand up, it breaks. So this is the most common definition of samadhi in Buddhism. And I also mentioned meditative absorptions, jhana states, that where you go into some kind of state that is based on three-dimensionality. But the real samadhi is the samadhi of the natural state itself. It is called prajna samadhi, samadhi of wisdom, raja samadhi, royal samadhi, sahaja samadhi, spontaneous natural samadhi. Yeah, and this is definitely the way how Mahamudra masters, Dzogchen masters, what is the meaning of samadhi if they use that word? Monica, please.
I don't know if I have proper words for it, but what you've been describing just now might be such a very intimate personal experience by the process you are going through that it's hard to describe for another person with words, because this experience of the non-dimensional status is more some kind of, I would use this hardly overused word, enlightenment, but an inner process. And it's so hard to touch with words. You can just experience this from inside.
It depends. When you get familiar with the state, then you know how it's expressed. And there are traditions that excel in verbal expression of this. Where there is no confusion about, it's kind of a trendy and cool thing to say that touch words won't go there and it's impossible to describe in word. That is not true.
I'm missing it because it's not my mother's tongue, and
yes.
But
Yes.
Thank you for explanation. That was great.
Yeah. Ugi, maybe you could continue about this verbal description thing as you understand it from Mahamudra, because I have to take a phone call now. So please continue a little bit.
All right. Where to pick up here? Yes, you can describe the nature of mind in many different terms, and it has been done in different traditions in different ways. But you really, if you experience it and you have that direct recognition of it, then you begin to see if a description of it is adequate or completely off. You begin when they talk about there is this big stillness, and you lose yourself in that stillness, and it's vast, expensive, and goes everywhere, then then it's already in the structure of space. And that's why in Mahamudra tradition, for example, one of the main traditions of Vajrayana Buddhism, they have all these very precise descriptions of it, that it's without reference points, the nature of mind. There is not a positioning towards experience, like empty space. Empty space has no center. Empty space is not three-dimensional. Empty space is the essence of spaciousness. And so there are no reference point. There is no subject object. There are not two things happening in there. Yeah, and then you have all these words like emptiness, which means there is no concrete entity to be found in this spaciousness. Like Kim said, it's always described, if they compare it to something natural, like they compare it, it is like space. Or when they say the phenomena that happen in this nature of mind, as an expression of this nature of mind, our thoughts, our feelings, and our sense perceptions, they are like dreams. They never say they are dreams, because as soon as you give it a definite concept, you make it into something definite. And then you regard it and are stuck in this three-dimensional samsaric mind, because you think things exist. That's why I always say they are like illusions, like dreams, or like space, or like the sky, or like the ocean, but never they are an ocean, or they are a heaven or a sky. Exactly. And then they, of course, use, like I just mentioned, this concept. James. James, you are having a good time there.
I just know that you got completely put on the spot there, Iggy. That's all. It was like you were sitting there listening to the lecture, and suddenly the finger was pointed at you. But no, yeah. I was desperately trying to think of a question to ask you that might help you out, but I'm sorry, nothing's coming to mind.
Am I so lost here, James?
No, not at all. I'm sure you're doing a fantastic job. Yeah, absolutely.
So I hope this phone call of Kim is not like one with this accountant where they have to go through several topics.
I come to think of, I think it's Durjum Lingpa in his book. He has like, he goes through different things in samsara that is destructible, and then he used like this negation in terms of all these things. So like this negation style, I guess, might be, would you say that is one of the kind of the another approach? Like one is this, like in terms of verbal descriptions?
Yes, I would agree, but with some reservations, because this neti approach you find in Advaita and in Hindu traditions, where you just speak in negations, like it's not this, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. The emptiness teachings are also very cautious about that, because you can make it into the other extreme, like it's not this, but the nature of mind is also our conceptual framework. It's also our thoughts. It's also the three-dimensionality. You cannot say three-dimensionality is not, because it appears. So if you are falling into that extreme, you lose the form in the Heart Sutra. Emptiness is form, and form is emptiness. So it's never a negation of anything in an existential sense. Welcome back, Kim.
So, from what I heard, you explained about basically what emptiness means. Yes. Good. Then we can continue practicing. So let's start. by aligning body. You can relax a little bit, couple of minutes. From there, after a couple of minutes of relaxing, you can take it into the gut. I always I always talk about the three basic characteristics of the natural state, three basic qualities. And one of them is groundedness, settledness. Here, when looking at the basic state through this entryway, through this doorway in the belly, it feels very grounded, settled, doesn't it? Even physically, you get more balanced, centered. This sense of being grounded. So I'll just make a note. I was speaking about the three-dimensionality and also practice and process of concentration, or using one's concentration, directing one's attention. What happens here when we gently place our attention in the gut, in the belly? Where is the attention into the belly? Where does it start from? Where is it aimed from? Find out. Did you discover that the attention is aimed from the head downwards into the belly? Did you make that discovery? See if, when I helped you, when I already gave the answer, do you see that that's the case? Can you verify it? Nod or shake your head. Okay. So an interesting thing that happens regarding this three-dimensionality and when using these entryways into the natural state is that here when we start gently placing our attention, aiming it from the head down into the gut, when we enter that zero-dimensional space of the natural state, there is like a release both from the belly and from the head. There is dispersal, disappearing of this use of attention. It disappears from the gut it disappears from the head. Practicing for the sake of all sentient beings. So, in terms of three basic characteristics of the natural state: groundedness, settledness, bedrock peacefulness for the gut. And then, gently, place your attention inside the chest, in the heart doorway. Again, about fist-size area, right in the middle of the chest, in front of the spine. Same basic space opens up as we use that doorway, but it has a different flavor, different taste. That of aliveness, liveliness, kindness, softness, love, compassion, sweetness. That is the second basic characteristic. again, there is when attention is used, aimed, directed to the heart door. It begins from behind the eyes, from the headspace. And again, when the entryway is, when we enter through it, this process collapses. Whether it collapses for short moments or longer ones is probably related to your advancement in purification practice. In your mind, as we are now enjoying the softness of the heart door, in your mind you can make a bodhicitta prayer. May all beings be free a few times. May all beings be free and happy. And now, as you generated bodhicitta, you can compare what is the energy after and before. If it is same, your recognition before was correct. And then, for the sake of all sentient beings, place your attention lightly in the center of the head, fist-size area inside the head. Close your eyes. So here we are not directing our attention anywhere. We are not directing it downwards in the body, not to the side, either one, not to front, not back, not up or down. It is already, without changing, without aiming, without directing, in its own place. if I would come up with an example of this, it would be like a beacon. Beacon is the building on the edge of the sea that helps boats and ships to know where they are located in the sea. Usually, the back and the sides of the beacon light are covered, so it only sends out the light to given direction. But here there are no barriers, edges that hold that light, so the light spreads everywhere. It is lit, it shines spontaneously, automatically, without any effort. And here we are not using attention, we are not aiming, directing our attention anywhere. So this one, this entryway, this doorway, the door of the head, is related to the, depending how you count it, the third or the first basic characteristics of the natural state. Selfless knowing, cognizance, clarity, you could say sobriety. And then, so here we have seemingly three different doors, 3 different entryways that have, each one has special characteristics as similar to different sides of a pyramid, of the same pyramid. So let's join them, like we did heart and gut yesterday. Gently, lightly, feel head together with the heart, together with the gut. Groundedness, liveliness, selfless knowing, all together. And then let's take the next step, and you will come to understand what I mean by saying that it is easier to connect, easier to find the Mahasiddha grounds through the centers at the both ends of the vertical pillar. So let the pillar below the body and Mahasiddha Bhumis below the body be connected with the three doors in gut, heart and head. Feel that connection. May the Mahasiddha centers below the body connect with the Mahasiddha centers in the gut, heart and head. For the sake of all sentient beings. So what we have here is having the four doorways to the basic state used and active. We have the three basic characteristics, and perhaps you can agree if I describe connecting the pillar below the body. It's sort of like the whole body-mind is connected to a stronger power generator than it was before. It's like the current is stronger. And then you can let the lower pillar be connected with the body mind, and especially the 3 doors gut heart head, while letting the pillar above and Mahasiddha grounds from above also connect with the body mind and the 3 doors. For the sake of all sentient beings. You can feel your body. Just gently, lightly be aware of your physical body. completely relax the body. James, can you please guide us through vows and prayers?
So, starting with Bodhisattva vows. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. So, once again, as always, just taking a moment after chanting to relax, let go, and absorb the blessings. Before moving on to relative refuge, I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in his pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in his pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in his pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Absolute refuge. I am the Guru. I'm in the pure land. I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. I am the Sangha. I am the Guru. I'm All beings are free. All beings are free. All beings are free. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient beings. And finishing with a bow.
I have a question. We talk about pranas, dirty prana and wisdom prana.
Mhm.
Is wisdom prana same than natural state energy or different?
What state was it?
Natural state?
Natural state. Yes, it's the energy of the natural state. Yes, prana as such is pure, but when it enters our system, when it enters the system of a samsaric being, it gets dirty. It becomes fuel, or prana is just fuel, it's just vital energy. There is a lot of noise coming from your microphone.
Sorry.
So, so it's just vital energy. It's like a force. It's just power, and as such, it doesn't have a purpose. It's just energy. But when it enters our energy body, our mind of a samsaric being, then it becomes fuel, and then it takes samsaric expression. And when it takes samsaric expression, we have negative reactions to things. We do think and say negative things, and it drains our prana. As you know, it's very tiring. But when stuff is not there, it's a different story.
Is there a way to? I also wrote down about prana because I was curious about it. Is there a way to like experiment or find? Like I know we use the breath in terms of like we talk about prana exercise, and then there is the breath is involved often, but that seems to be like one way of approaching prana. Is there a way to kind of get your hands on prana, like to understand it more? Or yeah.
All our practices are related to prana, even if it's not a breathing practice. Well, no, sorry, I shouldn't say that, because all our practices are related to getting the tubes clean. So I shouldn't say that. But in a sense, it is also related to prana. But if you want to understand prana better, do a lot of breathing practices. Then when you do that, when you realize or discover the meaning of prana in your own body mind, then you understand it everywhere else. And having said that, I was just reading today another horror story of, well, it was a long, like a article written by American mindfulness practitioner and mindfulness instructor who had practiced mindfulness for 4 years, and then he went on a Sutrayana Buddhist retreat, and it was an awful horror story. You know, another story of just, you know, becoming psychotic and just awful. I can share it I can put it into the Sangha, the article. But you know, like I often say that when we practice pranayama, whatever we practice, say mantras, whether empowerment mantras, guru mantras with it, because this brings in the our spiritual body, our soul, our Buddha nature, it brings. And when it does that, then we cannot get into trouble with prana practices. We cannot get into trouble with prana. Athletes get into trouble with their prana as well if they exercise too much. But also yoga practitioners who do too much breathing practices and so on. But mantras keep it at bay. Mantras, or the recognition of the natural state, keeps possibly excess prana at bay, in control. So it won't cause problems. How do you feel? I feel happy but tired.
Yeah, I feel the same. Can you hear me, Kim? Yeah, I feel the same. At the beginning of the last practice, I got really very angry, very tired, and really a lot of tension in the top of my head. And at one stage, I just had to actually revert to, you know, the top of my head. And but then, as I just questioned as to who in fact this was and went looking for it, you know, there just wasn't anything there, and the whole thing just actually fell away, and it just became like a Christmas tree after that, really, with the lights going on from the you know, the various centers. And yeah, it was really, really good. It was a complete transition, a complete transformation, really, from where I went into it, kind of feeling really, really tired, and now out of it, really feeling very, very fresh and reinvigorated, you know.
I would love to see you, Joe, as you are sitting there smoking a pipe at the same time.
I was like glimpsing in my eyes earlier when I'm meditating, and for like a short moment, I saw Joe as Gandalf, like he was just the white hair. Yeah.
I love to share something very personal with you. That was
Okay.
for the first time in my life when we did the last round of the sitting and connecting the heart and the gut and the heart and the muddy citas. I have no idea about all this, but
Right, yes, yes.
I just followed, and I could follow without understanding what I'm doing, and that was great. But I felt for the first time some kind of love for myself, but in a sober way.
Oh,
And
good.
that was better than I have ever felt before. Gave me an idea about what love really means.
Great. That's really wonderful to hear. Love in a sober way. Love in a sober way. That's really, really nice phrase. That's a t-shirt phrase. Thank you, everyone. And see you tomorrow. Have a nice day, have a nice evening.